30. Forgotten Home Features, a nostalgic journey into the houses of the past. Have you ever walked past a quiet, time-worn house and caught sight of a tiny iron door near the foundation, or a single, lonely toilet sitting out in the middle of a basement? Have you ever paused and wondered, what on earth was that for? Before modern technology reshaped the way we build and live, our homes held dozens of unique features, some quirky, some brilliantly practical, that made everyday life smoother, safer, or simply more charming. Today, we'll step back into that world and explore 30 such features, the inventions, the craftsmanship, and the way they quietly shaped daily life until they faded away. 1. Wall plates, anchor plates. On the brick or stone walls of older houses, you might notice iron plates shaped like an S, an X, or a five-pointed star. At first glance, they seem purely decorative, a flourish added by some whimsical builder. In truth, they were once essential. Inside, long iron rods ran through the walls, anchored on the outside by these plates. Together, they kept the structure firm, preventing bulges or collapse in an era before steel frames and reinforced concrete. They were not just functional. They were the mark of a builder who cared about both strength and beauty. Today, modern engineering has made them unnecessary, but those that remain are like badges of honor, telling anyone who looks closely, this house was built to last. 2. Cold chute door. Look low along the foundation of a home in a cold climate city, and you might find a small square iron door. Once upon a time, this was the cold chute, the gateway for warmth in winter. In the days before gas or electric heating, coal was the lifeblood of a home. A delivery man would tip his sack and pour the black fuel through this little door down into the basement. There, the homeowner would shovel it into the furnace, feeding the fire that kept the family warm. The chute meant the delivery man never had to set foot in the living space, and it kept coal dust where it belonged. Today, these doors are relics, their hinges rusted, their paint faded, reminders of a time when heat was carried street to street, one heavy sack at a time. 3. Built-in phone nooks and landline jacks. Step into a hallway or kitchen of a mid-century home, and you might see a small, recessed alcove in the wall, sometimes with a narrow shelf beneath. This was the built-in phone nook, the throne for the family's one and only telephone. The phone was heavy, corded, and usually black. The shelf below held the thick directory, a pen, maybe a scrap of paper with a hastily scribbled message. Landline jacks, scattered in different rooms, allowed the phone to be moved, though never far. When mobile phones arrived, the nooks fell silent. Many have since been repurposed as display spots for flowers, knickknacks, or family photos. But for anyone who remembers pacing in front of the phone, twisting the cord in nervous fingers, they are tiny windows into an era when connection was tethered to a wall. 4. Ice door. On the side or back wall of an old house, you might spot a small square door, now painted shut. This was the ice door, and behind it sat the family icebox, the pre-electric ancestor of the refrigerator. Every few days the iceman would arrive with tongs and a dripping block of ice. Without stepping into the house, he'd slide it through the door and into the waiting cabinet. Inside, the family's butter, milk, and meat stayed cool, the meltwater draining away into a pan. The hum of a refrigerator has long since replaced the silent chill of ice, but the doors remain, whispers of a time when keeping food fresh meant trusting the iceman's daily rounds. 5. Laundry chute. In many multi-story homes of the early and mid-20th century, laundry was handled with the help of gravity. Upstairs, a small door, sometimes disguised as a cabinet panel, opened onto a vertical chute. Drop your dirty clothes in, and they'd fall straight to the basement laundry room. It was efficient, a small domestic luxury, but safety concerns, especially for curious children, led many to be sealed up. Changes in home layouts, with laundry rooms now often on the same floor as bedrooms, made them less necessary. Still, in the rare home where one survives, there's a simple joy in lifting the door, tossing in a shirt, and listening for the faint thump below. 6. Pittsburgh potty. If you've ever wandered into the basement of a pre-war house in Pittsburgh or other industrial towns, you may have been startled to find a lone toilet sitting in the open. No walls, no stall, just porcelain in the middle of the floor. This was the Pittsburgh potty, built for steelworkers, miners, and other laborers. After a long, dirty shift, they could come in through the basement, use the toilet, wash up, and change clothes before setting foot in the main living areas. It was practical, it was hygienic for the home, and it ignored every notion of privacy. Today, most have been removed or walled in, but their existence is a reminder of a time when the line between work and home was carefully and literally managed. 7. Pantry. Before kitchen islands and open shelving became the rage, the pantry was the unsung hero of household organization. Whether a tall cabinet or a walk-in room, it held canned goods, jars of preserves, and bulky kitchen gadgets that didn't need to be within arm's reach every day. It kept the main kitchen neat and allowed for bulk buying, a boon in eras when grocery trips were less frequent. While some modern designs have done away with it, many homeowners still crave a pantry's order and abundance, a small room that makes a kitchen feel whole. 8. Ceiling beds. Saurian beds. In the early 1900s, inventors were already thinking about how to make the most of limited space. The ceiling bed, patented in 1913, could be cranked up and out of sight during the day, leaving the floor free for other activities. It was ingenious, but it never reached the ubiquity of the Murphy bed, likely due to its mechanical complexity. Today, in micro-apartments and tiny homes, the concept is being revived, proof that some ideas are simply waiting for the right time to shine again. 9. Push button. Light switches. Long before the familiar flip of a toggle, lights were controlled by two separate push buttons, one for on, the other for off. They had a certain elegance, a satisfying click, and a style that instantly dates a room to the early 20th century. But over time they could stick, and faulty wiring posed a fire hazard. Modern switches replaced them, yet in some preserved homes, pressing one still feels like reaching back through decades, a tactile link to a slower, quieter world. 10. Boot scrapers. Near the front steps of an old home close to the ground, you might find a cast-iron bar or slot. In the days of muddy roads and horse-drawn traffic, these boot scrapers were as essential as doormats. Before entering, you'd scrape away mud, dirt, or worse, ensuring the indoors stayed clean. As paved streets and cars replaced dirt lanes and horses, the scrapers fell into disuse. Still, they linger in historic neighborhoods. Small, sturdy reminders of a time when the journey from street to sitting room was a lot messier. 11. Root cellars. Before every kitchen hummed with the sound of a refrigerator, many homes had a root cellar, a cool, dark space built underground or partially buried. The earth itself was the insulation, keeping temperatures stable year-round. Inside, shelves sagged under the weight of potatoes, onions, carrots, and jars of preserves. Apples rested in wooden crates, their sweet, earthy scent filling the air. In winter, when snow sealed the world outside, the root cellar was a lifeline. Electric refrigeration made them unnecessary for most. But in rural areas, and among those who grow their own food, root cellars endure, symbols of self-reliance and a time when fresh meant what you pulled from the ground yourself. 12. Razor blade disposal slots. Peek inside the medicine cabinet of an old house and you might find a mysterious little slot in the back. Slip in an old double-edged razor blade and it would fall into the hollow space between the walls. This kept sharp edges out of trash bins, protecting cleaners and family members. Out of sight, out of mind, at least until decades later, during renovations, when homeowners discover a hidden cache of rusty blades. Disposable razors and blade-safe containers have made these slots obsolete, but they're fascinating relics of an era when design considered even the tiniest hazard. 13. Dumb waiters. Not every home had one, but in larger houses, a dumb waiter was a marvel of convenience, a small lift, often powered by a simple pulley system, used to send food, dishes, or laundry between floors. In an age when kitchens were sometimes in the basement or far from dining rooms, it spared endless trips up and down stairs. Today, changes in home layouts and lifestyle have retired most dumb waiters, But when found, they're often repurposed as quirky storage, a little vertical secret built into the walls. 14. Servant stairs. In grand old houses, you might find a second set of stairs, narrow and steep, tucked behind a door in the kitchen or pantry. These were the servant stairs, meant for household staff to move unseen between floors. They spoke of a time when formal living spaces were separate from the behind-the-scenes work of keeping a home running. In today's open, casual homes, the stairs serve no such purpose, but walking up one still feels like stepping into a novel set in the early 1900s. 15. Servant floor buttons. Under a dining table rug in some historic homes, you might find a small, almost invisible button. Press it with your foot, and somewhere in the kitchen, a bell or buzzer would sound, summoning staff without a word. It was discreet, efficient, and a quiet display of status. With the decline of live-in staff, these buttons fell silent. Today, they're curiosities, little brass discs that hint at the social choreography of another age. 16. Milk doors. Built right into the wall, usually near the kitchen, the milk door was a portal for daily dairy delivery. The milkman would place fresh bottles inside and remove the empties from the previous day, all without entering the home. It kept the process quick, private, and sanitary. Once refrigerators and supermarkets changed the way we bought and stored milk, the doors lost their purpose. Still, many remain, sealed or repurposed, a reminder of clinking glass bottles on early mornings. 17. Transom windows. Look above a door in an older home, and you may see a narrow pane of glass, the transom window. Before electric lights and air conditioning, it was an elegant solution for both brightness and ventilation. Light from one room spilled into another, and on hot days, the transom could be opened to encourage airflow. Modern lighting and HVAC systems made them less necessary, but some homeowners still prize them for their timeless beauty and practical charm. 18. Picture rails. Running along the top of the wall just below the ceiling, picture rails were strips of molding designed to hold hooks and cords for hanging art without damaging plaster walls. They allowed for easy rearrangement, no hammer, no holes, and added a graceful line to a room. Drywall and modern fasteners made them redundant, but in restored homes, they're making a comeback, love for both function and vintage elegance. 19. Home intercom systems. Before cell phones and smart speakers, talking to someone in another part of the house could mean shouting or using a built-in intercom system. Wired into the walls, these panels allowed room-to-room conversation and often included a connection to the front door, letting you speak to visitors without opening it. Once considered the height of domestic convenience, most have gone quiet, replaced by handheld technology. Still, their presence in an old house feels like a whisper from the future as it once was imagined. 20. Pocket doors. Unlike swinging doors, pocket doors slide into the wall itself, vanishing from sight when open. They save space and could instantly change a room from open to private. They required special wall construction and were more expensive to install, which is why they're less common today. But in homes where they survive, there's something deeply satisfying about sliding one closed, a smooth, almost theatrical motion that belongs to another era of design. 21. Defined room layouts. Step into an older home, and the difference is immediate. A sequence of smaller rooms, each with a specific purpose, living room, dining room, parlor, bedrooms, all separated by solid walls and doors. This defined layout offered privacy, kept noise contained, and made heating or cooling more efficient by closing off unused spaces. It matched a lifestyle where activities were more compartmentalized. Today's open floor plans favor flow and light, but many still prefer the coziness and quiet focus of defined rooms. In an age where life often feels unbounded, there's comfort in a space that draws a clear line between here and there. 22. Built-in kitchen desk. In mid-century kitchens, it wasn't unusual to find a small desk built right into the cabinetry, a hub for household management. Here, bills were paid, grocery lists were written, homework was done, and the family calendar hung in plain view. As workspaces shifted to home offices and devices went mobile, these desks lost their role. Yet in homes where they survive, they're still useful for charging electronics, jotting notes, or simply holding the day's clutter in one convenient corner. 23. Knob and tube wiring. From the late 1800s to the early 1930s, the earliest widespread electrical systems in homes used knob and tube wiring, single copper wires strung through ceramic tubes and held by porcelain knobs. It was a breakthrough in its time, bringing electric light into every room. But as appliances grew more powerful and safety standards evolved, its lack of grounding and aging insulation became a hazard. Today, it's more often a historical curiosity uncovered during renovations, a reminder of just how miraculous electricity once felt. 24. Large front, wraparound porches. In many old neighborhoods, wide front porches, sometimes wrapping around the side of the house, were outdoor living rooms. On summer evenings, families sat in rocking chairs, chatting with neighbors over the railing while children played in the yard. Porches encouraged connection and slowed the pace of life. As cars replaced foot traffic and privacy became more prized, they shrank or disappeared entirely. Still, when you find one today, it's hard not to imagine sipping iced tea there at sunset, watching the world drift by. 25. Mudroom. Just inside a side or back door, the mudroom was a buffer between the outdoors and the rest of the house. Coats, boots, and muddy clothes were left here, keeping the living areas clean. In harsher climates, it was a necessity. Modern homes often skip it to save space, but for families with pets, kids, or active lifestyles, a mudroom remains a wish list feature, a small, hard-working space that earns its keep. 26. Broom closets. Linen closets. Old houses often included purpose-built storage, a tall, narrow broom closet for cleaning tools, and a linen closet for towels, sheets, and blankets. These spaces kept order and made daily chores easier. Minimalist modern designs sometimes eliminate them, but their absence is felt in the form of cluttered corners and overstuffed cabinets. In a well-kept older home, opening a neatly arranged linen closet is its own quiet pleasure. 27. Large utility. Concrete slop sinks. In basements or laundry rooms, you might find a huge, heavy sink made of concrete. These slop sinks were built for the dirty work, washing muddy clothes, cleaning paintbrushes, bathing pets, or rinsing garden vegetables. Modern, smaller utility sinks have largely replaced them, but concrete's durability is hard to beat. Many still serve as indestructible workhorses decades after installation. 28. Whole house exhaust. Attic fans. Before air conditioning was common, a whole house fan could cool an entire home in minutes. Mounted in the ceiling or attic, it drew hot air out and pulled cooler evening air through open windows. It was energy efficient and surprisingly effective. While AC units pushed them into the background, in certain climates they're still prized for quick ventilation and for the fresh, rushing sound of night air filling the rooms. 29. Conversation pits. In the 1960s and 70s, some living rooms featured a recessed area, steps down into a sunken circle or square lined with built-in seating, often around a coffee table or fireplace. Conversation pits encouraged intimacy and made gatherings feel special, but safety concerns and changing tastes saw them fade away. Today, retro enthusiasts dream of bringing them back, drawn to their cozy, communal charm. 30. Built-in shelves, china cabinets. Rather than freestanding furniture, older homes often integrated shelves and display cabinets into their walls, crafted from solid wood, trimmed with decorative molding, and sometimes fitted with glass doors. These built-ins stored books, dishes, or treasured heirlooms. Minimalist trends have reduced their presence in new builds, but their permanence and character make them beloved in historic homes. A built-in is more than storage, it's architecture with a personal touch. Thank you for walking with me through these 30 vanished features, each a small chapter in the story of how we once lived. From the humble boot scraper to the grand wraparound porch, every detail reflects the needs, values, and daily rhythms of a different era. Some were born of necessity, others of luxury, but all carry the mark of human ingenuity. Though many have disappeared, they remain in memory, and in the walls, floors, and corners of the homes that still hold them. They remind us that the history of a house is more than bricks and beams. It's the accumulation of ideas, habits, and moments that shape the people within. If you enjoyed this journey, please like, share, and subscribe so we can keep rediscovering the forgotten mysteries of architecture and daily life together.